Hello, welcome to episode 4 of FPL BlackBox. And you might notice there's an extra face to proceedings in Luke, a.k.a. D1 Sable. How are you, Luke?
Very good, Az. Thanks for having me on. Honoured to be the first guest on BlackBox.
First ever guest on BlackBox. Amazing. Also, Mark is here, as always. How you doing, Mark?
Good evening. Yeah, Luke, with your debut, is it going to be Havertz or Rodriguez? What do you reckon?
Probably Havertz. We'll
no, can't
blame for it.
Well, it's good to have you, Luke, because you formed the support group for game week 2. We've all, as a spoiler, had an absolutely miserable game week 2. So we need to assess what went wrong and what we can do to do better next time. So Mark and I, we are adopting a very patient approach. Well, Mark's taken a few hits, throwing a few hits around. I'm being a little bit more patient than that. Luke is already, the wildcard's gone. He's gone all in. He's got lots to say about how that went. So we're going to hear all about that in a second. We've also got loads of other stuff to talk about. We've got team stats, who's impressing, who's struggling. We've got penalties. We mentioned them last week, but they're going to be a big factor this year. The whipping boys, who to target. There's 3 teams that are looking particularly suspect. So we should be getting in players playing against them. We've got a few comments on Bale, who's come in at 9.5. Is he going to be a good option? And I think we're going to talk about price rises as well, because people are getting very frustrated with those.
You've got a rant, haven't you? As you said to me specifically, I'm handling that bit. I'm looking forward to that. You're going to go off the hook.
That's all Luke. That's all Luke.
Is it?
Luke is chief ranter today. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say about the season so far. To be honest,
it's funny actually, because I thought like we had such bad game weeks as that I thought we'd want someone coming in with a positive vibe, but actually getting Luke on is a masterstroke, because he's probably the only bloke we know who's actually below us in the ranks at the moment. So
well, I was on with Kun Karam on the Scoutcast last night.
I saw.
It was horrible, to be honest. He had a great week. You know, he was really happy, and Joe and I were there. Miserable. So
sickening, wasn't it? Absolutely sickening. And he mentioned it twice. He did mention it twice.
I know. But yeah, we got Luke, so we're all right.
So you'll be pleased to know I can fulfil that role most weeks, Az, if you want. Not a problem.
Now, come on, be optimistic. You're going to turn it around like all of us, surely. Come on.
Hopefully. I mean, game week 1, I don't want to dwell on that too much, but essentially I didn't have Salah, so you can see how that probably went for me. I ended up with 33 points in game week 1. Now, I was quite happy with my team overall. I know the Salah thing, I don't want to get too much into it, but I thought I could maybe get away with the game week 1. Didn't work out that way. Wasn't going to captain him in game week 2, 3, 4, wanted to spread the money. I thought, as long as I can get away with that, just 1 goal, well, I'll take that, maybe 2. He hits 3, of course. So punished. Fair enough. Hold my hands up, it's a mistake. But really, I mean, the problem was my team selection with going with Pulisic and Vinagre, which I think maybe a couple of you did as well.
Oh, I did exactly that.
I did. Yeah, I just had Vinagre.
So, I thought, again, in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have gone with these guys. But I think my lesson really to learn here was don't trust managers, because, Lampard seemed to be giving all the signs that Pulisic would at least see some minutes. We're all in that mindset at the moment of I don't want to waste transfers, right? We want to spend them on the big hitters. I don't want to be spending them on defenders and midfielders. So I'm thinking Pulisic has got the potential to be, one of the great players, like a 9-10 million midfielder, I think. So I don't want to waste time bringing him in later. And the same for Vinagre. We were all set thinking that this guy's going to be one of the best 4.5s, plays for Wolves as a wing back. I don't want to have to be in a position where I'm going to have to bring this guy in. And then I had those comments from Nuno saying like, Marcel's going to take time to integrate into the squad. And we had Lamp saying Pulisic is in the squad and ready. I think with that one, he might have had a setback. So it's like, you can kind of chalk it off, maybe a bit of bad luck there. But ultimately, I should have just realised there's no smoke without fire. They're poor decisions. I shouldn't have gone with these 2 players.
Well, we've got your back here, Luke, because we've already added that to the commandments, haven't we,
right.
Mark, of the black box commandments. Don't trust these bastards.
We said exactly that. It's old wounds. This is exactly what we opened up on the first couple of shows. You clearly didn't watch the first couple of shows, Luke, because we went.
Me too. I just want to I'm in company of Mark Savins here, guys. I've made some rational decisions. See, just like.
Don't follow me.
The wild card, look. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw that you'd wild carded after game 1. What was the thought process there?
Well, you got to remember, I've got 33 points game week 1, right? So now I'm in a position where I had Son as a placeholder. He was always a placeholder. He was going to be coming out for Bruno regardless. I'm a Man United fan loosely. I wanted to be in a position where I've got Bruno Fernandez in game week 2, penalty taker. Not many people can get him. I was 100% wanted to do that. I didn't want to waste the swaps on defenders and midfielders like I've already discussed, but I'm in a position where I've suddenly got Vinagre and Pulisic not playing. So I would have had to have played Mitchell away to Man United. He ended up with an assist, which I don't think anyone would tell me he gets more than 1 point in that game before that. And I'd have had to play Bissouma, who ended up getting a red card, funnily enough. But that's not a position you want to be in. So then I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to take a -8 if I want to follow through my plan, because Bruno's going to be going up in price. He didn't, so I'm going to be priced out of that move. And suddenly I'll be on 25 points because I've taken a -8. And then I still won't be fully happy with my team. And then to top it off, Mitrovic was going down in price, and Danny Ings, who I really couldn't understand, like one game, and he's going down in price. So it felt like it was a crossroads. It's like, do I just suck this up, take a -8, say I've got 25 points, still not be happy with my team, take the drop, maybe get priced out of Bruno? I thought that's enough. I'm just going to wildcard, forget all that. Don't have to worry about all that stuff. We'll start fresh.
It's taking Son now, isn't it?
So, I mean, ultimately,
Son and Mitrovic out this week is
I'm very
brutal.
happy with my wildcard. I feel like I've done pretty good, considering it is 1 week's worth of data, right? It's very hard to know who's to pick. But when I look at it now, I see people love wildcards on Twitter and stuff, and it's very much, basically mine or very close to it. So I feel like I did that right. It's just the punishment I received for taking out Son, Ings, and Mitrovic. 8 goals from 3 players. I mean, that is just smited down instantly from that decision. So yes, I made mistakes and stuff. Fair enough. I understand that. Not trusting, trusting managers. And maybe just from now, I just need to ignore prices, but they drive me so wild. And in the end, they didn't even go up in price, these guys. And that's the thing that we're going to talk about. I think it's just, I could have just taken the -4, the -8, like I think Mark did, but I wouldn't have been happy ultimately, and I'd have lost enough value. And it's a crossroads. Then you're at that point. Am I backing my decisions this early on and going against, the bandwagons and these players that are going up? Then suddenly you're in a horrible position where you're priced out of players you wanted for good runs. I wanted Bruno for this run. At the end of the day, Salah did well, brilliantly game week 1, but over like a 7 or 8 period where I don't want to use swaps particularly, I felt like Bruno Fernandez might outscore Salah or at least get close because he's got better games. I'm very much a fixtures manager. So that's what I, anticipated. Didn't work out like that.
Well, I think we should look at our game weeks first, and then we're going to get. But you can rant again when we look at your team, because actually your game week wasn't too bad. But we'll look at Az's team first. It's a lot better than mine, anyway. Az, talk us through game week 2. Then go on.
Well, I'm a lot better than yours. Isn't saying much. I'm afraid.
That's very true.
I mean, the only good thing really that came of it was Pereira getting 10 points. Because I've been talking about him quite a lot pre-season and things. I mean, his assist was pure jam. His free kick was spectacular. So 10 points for him is great. Pretty much everything else awful though. I mean, I had Ryan who got 6, Alexander-Arnold who got 7, and then blanks for Davies, Walker-Peters, Ayling, Salah, Havertz, Werner, Martial, and 5-point captain for Aubameyang. So it wasn't great.
I think it's fitting in a week like that where it was Pereira who delivered for you, though. When that went in the early kickoff, I was like, "Oh, hello, he's going to be so chuffed with that."
The trouble is, that was literally the only good thing, because everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Ings scored, I took him out. United blanked. Everton got 5 goals and didn't have any of their assets. Son getting 4 goals. It's just like Man City starting so strongly. Every single thing that could have gone wrong, I think, for all of us, just did. So I'm keen to forget it and move on. I mean, Havertz stays. He had taken off at 45 minutes against Liverpool. I kind of expected it when they got the red card anyway, so I can't really blame him too much for that. He's got 2 goals and counting.
Has he got a hat trick? I think someone said he's got a hat trick.
He hasn't got a hat trick. You're kidding.
No, I saw it in the chat just now.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, so hopefully he's got some confidence back, and he's got West Brom next, and there's going to be goals.
I've got to say, I didn't see that coming.
Well, even Calvert-Lewin can get a hat trick versus West Brom, so there is that.
Yeah, but I think that Havertz probably used his feet rather than every other body part.
No, it was a weird hat trick, wasn't it?
I don't know. Not after the game week 1, maybe not. Did you see him try and control the ball?
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but yeah.
I'm so happy Havertz has got a hat trick.
Yeah, I know. I can see it in your face. This will cheer you up as well. Look at my game week. My God. So the record-breaking week for goals, was it? And I didn't get a single goal out of it. Absolutely shocking. So McCarthy in goal 0, Alexander-Arnold 7, Dean, who was my sign-in, one of my sign-ins, 2 sign-ins, 1 point, Ayling 1 point, Robertson 6 points. Grealish, who was my other sign-in for the hit,
Grealish,
he had plenty of chances, didn't he? Oh, God. And I'll come to my lesson learnt in a minute, but it looked, as soon as Sheffield United got that player sent off, I thought, hello, that's got to help.
Yeah,
but it actually didn't, because it was just really solid defending from that point on until Villa got the goal. And then it really opened up for him, and he had 2 or 3 really good chances, but didn't take them. So go on, lay into me for going Grealish.
Yeah, I mean, you're lucky as well. Like David Tucker said in the chat, you're lucky that Alisson saved that pen. Because if you'd lost the double clean sheet,
I know.
You'd have had one assist. You'd have had one assist.
Just imagine. But at least I got my captain right, because he was my highest scoring player. So I can take solace in the fact that Aubameyang was the highest scoring player there. Yeah, Aubameyang got 10, Salah 3, Adams 1, Werner 2, and that's it really. Absolutely shocking.
The biggest thing for me, and it's definitely going to be your lesson learned, is Grealish. Because I mean, it was between Grealish and Barnes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You were so passionate about Barnes, and then you surprised me last week going for Grealish.
This is it. This to bring my lessons learned up, because this is we're adding to this as we go. And basically, that was my dogs in the background there.
Yeah, I wonder what that was.
I know, it's crazy. Must be a fox in the garden. Or maybe they want Harvey Barnes in as well. I don't know. Maybe that was it. But yeah, the new point on there, on my lessons learned so far this season: don't let potential price drops be too powerful as a tiebreaker when considering targets. Because that's what I did. I looked at Barnes, and he was 60% towards a drop, I think, before that game, and Grealish was nowhere near that. So I thought to myself, well, if Barnes doesn't do it against Burnley, he's got City next. He's going to drop for sure. I don't want to buy another player who's going to drop 0-1 because I hate losing value. And so I thought to myself, well, Grealish has got Sheffield United, who didn't look great shakes with Ramsdale in goal. Getting used to having a new keeper there, of course. And he's got Fulham next. So I thought over 2 games he would probably outscore Barnes. And I did say Barnes will probably get something. He still could. He could get a goal and assist at Fulham, couldn't he, Grealish? Right. So I don't think Fulham are going to be as effective shutting him down as Sheffield United were. Wilder knows what he's doing. He's played against Grealish before and knows exactly how to do it. So he moved Basham over and didn't go man to man, but he definitely shut him down. So yeah, I've got to be careful not to do that again. So it's just, I put it on here to remind me next season that that's one factor I can't build into it. Because it's a shame I didn't go Barnes. I lost 13 points, but at the end of the day, I've still got Grealish at Fulham while Barnes goes to City. And then after that, I've got the option to go to Barnes, go to Zaha, go to Traore. So that position in my midfield is definitely going to be one that I swap in and out according to fixture and form. So it's not the end of the world. Grealish wasn't a long-term pick, and he could still do it at the Cottage. Let's see. Anyway.
Yeah, there was the one lesson learned I forgot to send you, so it hasn't been added to the list.
Typical. I'll put it on next week.
Amateur. I know. Sorry. Well, it's part of the article that I wrote for Scout today, just about I'm seeing lots of people wildcarding, looking for shiny new players and things, and that's exactly what I did with Martial. I was adamant that I was going to do Ings to Martial no matter what. And what I should have done was probably prioritise some of the other issues that I had in my team before taking him out. So Ings against Spurs at home wasn't that bad a fixture. I'm not saying I would still rather have had Martial, but when I'm thinking about transfers I could have made game week 1, I could be in a stronger position now if I'd focused on the weak links rather than trying to get in all the best ones.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, every one of my transfers, I'm trying to make sure I'm targeting the players that aren't doing it for me, rather than, I said, shopping for somebody that I'm coveting. I mean, like Son to. To be fair, hand on heart, if I'd have had Son, I probably would have done Son to Rashford.
Yeah, so do 100%.
I can't. I'd have done exactly what Luke did. I would have got rid of Son and got a United player in the same way. So,
I think he was the most transferred out player.
It
was the game, wasn't it? Yeah. So I mean, we're not alone. Those of us that did it.
I think Ings and Son both were, weren't they?
Yeah,
well, Ings was definitely up there.
I mean, he dropped in these 8.4, so no doubt he had a lot of people removing it. I say it's really annoying because I did fancy him in that game. But I mean, just talking about that game briefly, what are Southampton up to? I don't understand what they're doing. Like, schoolboy stuff. It's literally just that high line was mental.
And it was a problem at Palace as well, and they didn't address it. And it literally got to half time in the Spurs game, and Mourinho just went, "Look, lads, just come to the halfway line, dink the ball over, and you're going to get."
Well,
and they
I saw it when Son scored and Kane went over to congratulate him. Son went, "Oh, that's the first pass that you've given me that's worked," and you could see them talking. So at half time, Son just went, "Look, you drop deep, flick it through, and I'll just use my pace, cut inside." And they did it once, fooled them once. They did it again and again and again. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. But that won't happen at Newcastle, surely. No. Like, Newcastle are not going to be as stupid as that. And I still worry about Spurs' creativity in general, because up until that point, Spurs looked pretty normal, pretty average again. It was quite an even kind of boring game.
I think you kind of have to write that game off as just craziness and hope that Ralph addresses that. I mean, it's like he thinks he's managing, Barcelona or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what was going on there, but like you say, it's worrying that he didn't pick up on that. I mean, at one point you just think he's stubborn, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's almost like a fantasy manager. No, I'm sticking to my guns there. We're gonna get this back, even though it's worked 4 times. I mean, Kane gets 4 assists. He got 2 assists the whole of last season. It's just absolutely crazy. It's just an outlier of a game, I think. Yeah. That's what I'm going to tell myself anyway. And
it upset a lot of people. I was listening to the Always Cheating podcast. You should listen to those guys talk about it. They were very disparaging of Hazard. It was, and I think he's a good manager, right? I think I
love him.
He turned them around last season after the Leicester game, but I just don't understand why. I think he felt that it was the closing down that wasn't there. The high line is fine. It's just the closing down wasn't there. They didn't put enough pressure on the ball, and it gave Kane the time to do that. But watching it was just bizarre. It's like watching an under-11s game. It's like like they can't work out what the problem is, and they haven't. And
it's so obvious when you're watching it what the problem is, and yet they just don't adjust to it. Yeah, it's very strange.
Utterly bizarre. Let's look at your game week 2, Luke. Talk us through what happened. Obviously, you didn't have much to build on with. Was it 33 points from game week 1? But your team looked great. I mean, you sent it to me when you wildcard, and I said, I don't know what you're worried about. It was only because you lost out in the Sun points, but otherwise, on paper,
my only thing was no Everton. I was surprised you didn't grab a Calvert-Lewin or a Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, that was right up to the wire, to be honest with you.
Who have you got, Luke? Just for the listeners who aren't.
Oh, okay. So I've got Leno in goal with a 4.0 steer, and then I've got Alexander-Arnold, who got 7 points. I've got James, so Mark's mate, with a goal and assist from Chelsea from the week before. Obviously 1 point this week, though. Ayling, who got me 1 point, and Klitsch, who got...
Nice pick.
Yeah, not bad. I have to thank Laterizer for that one, actually. We had a discussion about it. I actually had Souček in my team right up until very close to the deadline, and he said swap him out. So hats off to him. Thank you very much. Bruno Fernandez, obviously a massive letdown, 2 points. And Aubameyang, who was captain. I think he's most people's captain, right? Just an assist, so a little bit of a letdown there, but 10 points. I went early on Podence, so quite happy about that, because I think he's quite sought after now, isn't he, after his performance. And went with Jesus, Jimenez and Martial up top. So Martial was kind of a 1 week punt almost for me, because I do want Werner in that spot. I've left the 0.5, but I thought out of the two, Werner's playing Liverpool and Martial's home to Palace. So I may as well go for that sort of 1 game week punt there almost. But yeah, I got Jimenez in for Ings just because I thought long time you got to readdress it. At that point, Wolves
I'm so jealous
to go into their really
Jimenez.
Good. Yeah, I mean I like that
really
move. Jesus was the thing that swayed me on the Everton thing, really. So I did have James Rodriguez in midfield in the 3-5-2. So basically James Rodriguez instead of Jesus, and then double Liverpool defence still instead of James. So Robertson instead of James. But right up to the deadline, and then obviously this Aguero news broke, and I just thought that's one of those rules almost of fantasy football that I've tried to write in my head in the last few seasons is, everyone knows it. If one of the Man City strikers is out, then get the other one. And I thought I'd kick myself if I don't do this. I know their fixtures aren't great, but I like players who have a lot of shots, and Jesus' shot volume is very high. His expected goals are always high. The data, it often looks better than Aguero in some of the data that he stacks up for chances and stuff. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Aguero for finishing them, but I just feel like when that opportunity presents itself, you have to go for it. So, I thought that Everton would do well, and I'd probably miss out points there, but I'm quite happy with that, at least until Aguero comes back, and then I can just change it. I mean, that's kind of my mindset there. And, I'm not as high on Everton as everyone else. Maybe I'm mistaken there, I'm misled, but I feel like they've just had 2 very, very easy games.
Yeah, I agree with you, Luke. People are talking about Rodriguez. He's had 2 games, one against Spurs, and Spurs didn't really show up, and Everton just had so much possession. They played around with it, tick-tacky football. And then West Brom, who are relegation favourites, and only had 10 men for 45 minutes. And so Rodriguez has impressed, but Palace is going to be a proper test because Hodgson's going to have a player on him, and they've got players who can put him under pressure. And Palace are a much sounder team defensively, as they've already shown. They haven't conceded, one goal conceded so far, and that was obviously a consolation to United. So I think if he impresses in that game and he gets something out of it, I'll start taking interest. But
there's good news. Good news for Brighton as well, because they're through in the cup, so it means Basuma can play against Everton,
right?
Because he'll serve his ban for that ridiculous red card that he got. I don't know why I'm laughing. It wasn't fun. It was awful. It was such a bad thing he did. But yeah, I mean, having Basuma there, I don't think Brighton's a particularly easy game for Everton either. And then they go to Liverpool, so it's 3 tough games for.
Yeah, and I suppose it's just too early for anything really right now, isn't it? And I think that's why a lot of you guys aren't wildcarding and doing it, which is probably the sensible approach. We've only had 2 weeks and we've already seen what massive swings there can be between a team's performance. I think a lot has come down to who these guys have played, but fitness I think has come into it. Palace are clearly very, very fit and up to it. Did they win something like 11? Didn't win a game in something like 11 or 13 games up until game week 1. It's just, it's almost like Southampton and Palace have switched in a bit. I know the styles are very different, but in terms of the performance that you'd expect, Southampton have been dreadful after they were very good in lockdown, and vice versa for Palace. So just mad. But anyway, I ended on 51 points, so I think it did okay-ish, but again, 91 points.
When you see some of the scores, 91 if you left it. Wow,
yeah.
When you see some of the scores.
Don't ever do that, right? Don't ever look at what you would have scored. It's just that is one of the worst things to do. I mean, that you actually had to sit down and work that out. What was going through your head? Did you actually go, right, I'm going to sit down and work out how many points I would have got?
Yes, because I like pain, Mark, quite clearly, and I have to learn from it, right? So now this is what we're doing. Now. We're all zen. We're going again. My team, I'm happy with my team moving forward. It's going to do well this week, of course.
It's bullseye. Look at what you could have won. Bring out the speedboat. You've lost, but here you go. That's what you could have had. No, you just don't want to do it. It's crazy.
It's because it's the issue, isn't it? With the wild cards are a good play, obviously, if you need it. But you think now a lot of people are going away from United. They're even going away from Chelsea, and they're going to like Everton and going to these teams. And you think actually the United and the Chelsea could easily do well this week. It could be exactly the same. Martial could be this week's Son. Doesn't mean he's a bad player just because of one bad week. There's just not enough data for me to wildcard.
And this is it. I want to let's just pop in on the great and the good, because that's a table, and I want to talk about wildcards a bit in relation to that. We're not bottom, as look, we're all right. So and there's good managers below us, right? In Joe, FPL Matthew, and Late Riser. Yeah, and Joe, nice one. Yeah, he loved that one. Touche. We stuck you on there, Luke, just for reference of your score and so on. And Darren Wiles as well, who called the Greyhead is the best manager he could find in the Hall of Fame at the moment in terms of overall rank amongst the
Look at Late Riser at the bottom.
I know, and he's got his wildcard active. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was on -8 and then he wildcarded. So
yeah. I mean, so
good man, sensible guy.
This is it. But my view on wildcards is, and the reason why I think it's too early is because I looked at it, right? And I thought to myself, should I take it up as an option? But it's like game week 1 all over again. When you're picking your initial lineup, it's kind of, it's a bit of potluck. It still feels like that. If I was sitting down now and someone said, right, you can pick as many transfers as you like, although we've had 2 matches and I've got some data, you still wouldn't be sure enough to go, right, I'm not going to want a different team in about a week's time or 2 weeks' time. Whereas you hope that as the season goes on, when you sit down with wildcard, you can make more definite choices that you'll be, give you something long term.
I agree with that to some extent, but I think this season might be slightly unprecedented. And I just cannot remember this amount of options that are fantasy appeal. It's just so many of them, and I think it's in stark contrast to, especially last season. And it just seems so crazy. There's so many options. I don't think we're ever going to be at a point where you can sit down fully and say, yeah, this is going to be the team. These are.
You can make 2 wildcards of completely different players that are both viable.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before.
I love it, to be honest. I love that because it's going to be highs and lows, and we've already seen it in 2 weeks. How different. I mean, at one stage, I think I looked at the mods and cons, and I was 92 points away from first in 2 weeks. How does that even happen? I was like baffled. Like I couldn't do that if I tried. if I had an auto-select team, but there we go.
Yeah, it's massive swing. I mean, obviously we had the record-breaking goals for a start.
Mm.
And then you had the promoted teams are all really struggling defensively, and 2 of them played against each other and turned in a big scoring game.
Yeah.
And then you've got Southampton, which, as we've talked about already, just you can't legislate for that kind of performance. So it's like I didn't have Leicester players when they thrashed Southampton last season, and I watched it and I was gutted, obviously, when I think Perez and Vardy got hat-tricks. But at the end of the day, I had to be philosophical and thought, well, how could I ever have seen that coming? You just cannot blame yourself for that. And I think that's how you got to feel if you did sell some. That I don't think that it was a wrong decision if you were going to get a United player. I could see the logic behind it, and you just cannot legislate for that kind of punishment. The 4 goals, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
and on the flip side of the teams doing poorly, and United included in that. I mean, look at City it pretty much the hardest away game you could have in the first game of the season, expecting a bit of rust, and for them to put in that performance with, De Bruyne was just an absolute. I was saying yesterday, if you watch that game and haven't immediately bought in De Bruyne, then you've got balls of steel, because I saw that and I was just like, it's absolutely. If anyone was debating De Bruyne and Sterling, that game, I don't see how you can pick Sterling, because De Bruyne was just amazing.
Yeah, I did the match of the day challenge, not quite. I mean, one match, I followed General's kind of lead here, and I thought, I'm not gonna look at the score. I'm going to watch the match later. So I started watching it about 10 o'clock. And City just blew me away. Their energy and physicality. I mean, obviously Guardiola said, look, they're tough, they're aggressive, you're going to have to compete with them. And they really did. I mean, Jesus was astonishing as well. He really putting a shift in, really physical with the centre-backs. Rodri and Fernandinho just held the midfield brilliantly. They were just all over them, swarming all over. And you look at United and they look leggy. I mean, Luke, you're a United fan. How do you explain it that City were just so fast out the blocks? How can there be a difference in fitness to that degree?
Well, that's it. We just don't know, do we? And I think their pre-seasons were not too dissimilar, where we weren't really sure. I mean, a lot of their players were, there was the COVID thing for Man City, for example. And, they got players playing all around the world, and they didn't seem to have much of a pre-season. In terms of signings, there wasn't too many. Obviously, Torres and a.k.a, but you'd expect City to probably spend more. And similar with Man United, we need a few players in. It's a very similar build-up.
And the departure of Silva, the most influential player.
Exactly. But then their performances just completely contrast to each other. And that's why people say, well, in hindsight, you could have maybe waited on Man United. I agree. But then sometimes, we all waited on De Bruyne, and look how well he did. If you just went there straight away. So you win some, you lose some on that for me. I just want to add one thing on that, actually. I don't actually think Pep would have played Fernandinho and Rodri in centre midfield and given De Bruyne that licence if Gundogan didn't come down with COVID. I feel like he always plays him. And I think he's got a little bit lucky there, because I don't honestly. Do you think he would have started with a.k.a. and Stones at centre-back? I feel like a.k.a.'s first game, he doesn't seem to trust Stones anyway. I feel like he'd have put an old head in there. I feel like Fernandinho would have played a centre-back with him. And Gundogan would have played, which I don't rate him as a player particularly. I don't think it really works when they play him. And I think he kind of lucked out on that, to be honest, because has he ever played 2 DMs in a game before? I think he was just basically forced into it some way. So
I think that's true, because he wouldn't have put Foden. Because it would have been he wanted to restrict the midfield, didn't he? And
so I think he's almost lucked out into that. So what I'm hoping is he realizes that worked really well, because Wolves were great. I think they even handled that pretty well. I think other teams would have lost like 5-6-1.
Oh God,
in that game. So then suddenly I'm thinking, well, is he going to stay like that? Because De Bruyne's got massive freedom. It makes him even better, if anything. I worry that when Gundogan comes back, is he just going to come straight back again? I mean, it's not going. I'm still going to have De Bruyne. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel like if people are expecting him to set up that way again, we could only hope that has swayed him, because I don't think it was in his mind.
I tell you what, I watched the game, and at the end of it, it was about midnight, and I made the 2 easiest transfers I probably have to make all season. It was just too obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we know what they are. De Bruyne in for Aubameyang, and everyone. Podence in for St. Maximin.
So you say Podence, I'm going to say Podence, because I think it's got a bit of a flourish. But that's it, wasn't it? And then Joe made the same transfers, and I'm sure many other managers did as well.
See, I've gone off him.
I heard this.
Everyone's flocking to him, and I've gone off him. Semedo signed today. I just think there's so many players now competing for those forward spots. They're in the market as well, apparently, for another signing. Douglas Costa's been rumoured to go from Juventus. I mean, this is it. It's not exactly a massive gamble, is it? A 5.5 million midfielder who might be starting up front or in the front three for a team with the fixtures Wolves have got. But for everyone, there's a little bit of me that wants to wait and just see what comes, because he's not exactly a clinical player, is he? He's looked amazing. I mean, his nutmeg of De Bruyne is already the best moment of the season, I think.
You get 3 points for that.
Yeah, he should do. He should just get max bonus.
He could have got a haul, but he wasn't clinical. You're right. I think that's going to be that's going to be a theme with him. I also think, he probably is going to get early subs and stuff. I mean, everything about what we've seen from Wolves in the past suggests that to me. But I think the way he's worked his way into the team the end of last season and the way he started this season, I think he's in the front at the moment. I think eventually it'll be Traore, Podence, Jimenez.
So Ryan asked in the chat, would you favour Click for 0.1 more? So would you rather have Click, who's on penalties, playing for a attacking? You wouldn't.
I'd rather have Podence right now because the fixtures are so good and I'm a fixtures manager.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't get Jimenez, and Luke's got him, and you said as you fear him. I absolutely do as well. And Podence isn't going to cover it. All right, let's be clear. But
cover Mark.
I'm not going to talk like that. But he is going to get points out of this run of fixtures, I think. I mean, he's got 2 assists already, 2 returns and 2. And the short term. I mean, I've got my transfer list. I'll bring it up at the moment. So that's the stuff that I ask myself when I'm going to make a signing. And Podence doesn't tick all those boxes, right? He's not a proven asset, in the Premier League. He's a gamble. Sorry.
You can't bring him in then.
Well, this is a checklist that I don't have to pass all of these. I have to mentally score each signing on this and weigh it all up, basically. This is just to make sure I don't forget anything, basically, and miss something really obvious. And I knew in my head that he's not a proven asset and it's a risk. And is he a certain starter? Possibly not, but I think he is at the moment. I think I'm going to get 2 or 3 games out of him. He's going to play at West Ham. He's going to play in the next couple, I think. And they're all very strong fixtures. So I think, as I said to you, it's another position in midfield that I'm going to swap around. So although he doesn't pass my transfer list lock, stock and barrel, I think it makes sense. And it's like Reece James at Chelsea. I think you've got to get on and sometimes take a risk that they are going to nail down a place just because they're a good player.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they do, then you're going to be quids in. And I think that's happened with Reece James, and I think it could happen with Podence as well. I think he's that good, and a lot of Wolves fans feel that he's key to them.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so, that's what they were saying before in pre-season. It's actually Semedo that I like the look of. If he comes in at 5.5 and not 6. Which I think would be too high for him. But a 5.5 right wing back, if he adopts that kind of Doherty role, and what's so amazing about Jimenez is his ability to convert from the right. So that if you look at his goals, I mean, the amount of assists Doherty got from crossing in from the right, and now Podence is doing the same thing. If Semedo can come in and get some better attacking stats than he had at Barcelona, then I think he's going to be a good option as well. So I've got enough money to do Davies to Semedo if he's 5.5. I think.
I mean, I am not going to be able to have a Wolves defender. My defence is pretty solid. We'll look at our teams later, but I may even double up and go Traore and Podence.
Traore as well. Wow.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that he's going to be a big factor in those 4 easy fixtures, and he's not a clinical finisher, but he's
good,
always going to be involved. Again, of course he did.
Right wing back, just so strong and so like. Calm and composed. It's just so different to how he was a couple of seasons ago. He's just a completely changed player. It's amazing what Nuno's done with him.
Yeah, well, he's just very direct, isn't he? So as soon as they get the ball, you can always see he's lining up. Right, am I going to be able to run this from where I am straight to the goal? And you can see him weigh it up every single time. Quite a lot of the time he'll try it, and quite a lot of the time it'll work. But the closer you can get him to the goal, I think probably better. So those as a front 3 look quite lethal to me. The only sort of caveat I think, or in the back of my mind, is Wolves don't tend to score a lot of goals or blow teams away. They seem to, once they've got their goals, they might sit back, and that's
they got as many goals as Southampton last season.
Right, okay, fair enough. Okay. But I still just think in the style, they're the kind of team where I feel like they go 2 or 3 up, and then they would just pass the ball around with Moutinho and Neves a little bit. They wouldn't really. But how many teams in the league are going to go for it? No one's really like City, are they? And I guess that's part of it.
Look at Jimenez. I mean, he very, very rarely gets a double-digit score.
Yeah. But if he's going to score 1 every week,
so reliable, take it. So reliable. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he doesn't get, often get 10, 11, 12 points shows that they don't score that many goals because he's the one that gets all the goals for them anyway.
Yeah, employee of the month, as I said, he's so reliable. But I think Fulham at home, who knows? I mean, he could go mad in that game.
Yeah, I'm so worried about that, man.
Yeah. Well, let's look at some stats from the game week. We like to do this. This is some game week 2 data. A couple of things I wanted to pick out here. We talked about Everton in the first week not getting open play crosses serviced to Calvert-Lewin. Well, they put that straight away there. 19 open play crosses in that game against West Brom, which was, I think, second or third overall. But they were playing against 10 men. But that's the service. And Dean and Coleman were the players providing much of that width. And which is one of the reasons I went Dean, because I think he will get more assists than last season and hopefully more clean sheets as well. And he was so involved. I was a bit unfortunate not to get anything from him, but I've got great hopes for him going forward. And they had more shots in the box, more shots as a result of that. Open play crosses again, low. West Ham really high, and I think they're top overall, as we'll see in a bit. Souček's got a goal coming, surely. If they keep throwing in crosses like that, he's going to get on the end of something soon. It'll be when he's on my bench, of course. But
yeah, God, there's one stat there that really stands out to me, and that's Tottenham touches in the penalty area 8.
Yeah,
which is the lowest of all teams in the Premier League with Spurs, and they got all those goals.
Yeah,
that's great. That's mad.
Yeah, well, they only went into the penalty area to score the goals, didn't they? Yeah. Basically, didn't do anything in the first half. And it was an extraordinary game to watch, and that stat really does say it all there. Yeah, it's incredible. Bit of a regression on Newcastle at the XG from open play, down to 0.46. Top last week, near the bottom this week. And also their leads. They got all those goals again with a XG from open play of 0.29. Pretty incredible. And Bielsa's been saying that they're not creating enough, but they're scoring goals. So you've got to wonder how much that's gonna regress. Let's look at Leeds. This is over the season so far in the 2 games. So their XG is just 1.69, and yet they've got 7 goals. So the delta is 5.31. They've got no right to have 7 goals.
That is outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah. To be fair, they lost Fernandez in the build-up, didn't they, for the second game? He probably made a big difference to their creativity. First games versus Liverpool. Yeah, how much can you ask from that? But just
to put that into context for anyone listening, I think that's probably the 5th worst in the league from a quick scan I've done. So they've got, the most joint most goals.
Yeah.
And they're 5th from bottom in terms of the goals they should actually have.
That's an impressive scan, indeed.
It's right there, yeah.
It is, yeah. I mean, what I've sorted there on the table is expected goals conceded, and the top 3 teams are West Brom, Leeds, and Fulham, all the newcomers to the league. And we'll look at this. Yeah, it's obvious. Isn't it?
That is really telling, isn't it?
I was just going to point out, actually, that's actually anti-Bamford, isn't it? Wasn't Bamford completely the opposite before? Get a million chances and never score.
Yeah. Clinical.
And now they've completely switched around, and Bamford's a god. So I don't know how that works, but hopefully 38 that will change.
Look at that expected goals conceded for West Brom, though, 6.8.
Yeah.
I mean, the next highest on the list is Leeds with 4.5. So, that's a significant percentage.
But to be fair,
I know they had 10 men, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but up against Everton, who were kind of are in form, plenty of confidence. But Chelsea this week, you've got with Havertz getting the goals tonight, and obviously having more confidence going into that game, and Werner's due a goal. Obviously, needs that first goal for Chelsea. You've got to back
on the fun now.
Yeah, you've got to back, and we'll get to those later on when we talk about captains. But yeah, West Brom, Leeds and Fulham, obvious whipping boys, and we'll look in more detail at that when we get onto captains later. Let's look at some player stats. This is from the season overall, and it's that XGI non-penalty. Calvert-Lewin, your man at the top there, Luke. I mean, you haven't got him, but you did think about him. But what do you think of that? It's just incredible, isn't it? I mean, he did nothing in lockdown at the end of last season.
But which is why I was so against getting him this year, because I remembered what he did to me last year when I had him. I got him in for that. I think the first game back was Norwich at home, or no, maybe there's a second game. I wildcarded him in. I think I went hard on Everton for that Norwich game. I think they won 1-0, some goal from someone just random, and then I had him for ages, and he just every week blank. But they put so much quality in around him now. You thinking of getting him, Lou?
I mean, probably not, because he's gone up in price and I'm stubborn. I don't want him now. It's too much. I just think, part of it for me is they've played 2 very easy teams. So there is that. I do think Carlo Ancelotti's done
one very easy team, ouch.
Well, going by the performance, I should say, they were dreadful in that game, right?
They were
yeah,
terrible.
and then 10 men West Brom. I mean, that's obviously going to be pretty good. I just think he's working wonders with the guy. I really like him as a player. I've always liked him for a long time. Mark knows this. We discussed it when he played against City a long time ago, and I thought he played really well holding up the ball, but more as like an all-round worker for a team than more of a goal scorer. But Carlo Ancelotti's got this history. I think he turned Inzaghi into a goal scorer. Pipo Inzaghi, this is. And I feel like, he's getting him in the right areas now. I looked at a few heat maps on Twitter and stuff, and he's basically in the penalty area the whole time now. So, if the other guys can do the creative work, there's no reason why he can't score a lot of goals.
What strikes me about this table, Mark, is the fact that you've got Salah, who got a hat-trick in the first game, Son, who got 4 goals, and yet they're not top of this. The top, in fact, they're not even the top 3. You've got Calvert-Lewin at the top with an expected goal involvement of 2.74. He's like the clear winner. Then you've got Antonio, Richarlison, and then you've got Son, and then you've got Mane ahead of Salah, and then you've got Lacazette, Salah, Wilson, Adams, Willian, Barnes, Jimenez, Wijnaldum, what's he doing there? Kane, Zaha, Mopé. So I don't own any of these players but Salah. So that
you got 2 jammy penalties. Yeah,
that worries me a bit.
Yeah, not owning Che Adams worries you? Yeah, it should do. It definitely should.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, to be fair, he is. I didn't rate him at all at the start of the season, but he's been very unlucky. I mean, 2 those saves. I mean, from Guaita and Lloris. What can you do about that?
Yeah, Antonio as well. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any stats produced from this moment that he's not going to be near the top. He's always near the top. How is he managing this all the time? And despite their games being terrible, I mean, he's not even had a penalty yet, and he's probably going to get them, I think, if Noble's not on the pitch.
Yeah.
So I just think Antonio's still a great pick. I mean, I actually like Richarlison more than Calvert-Lewin. That's what I wanted to say before. Even though Calvert-Lewin's the one right up top, I still feel like Richarlison is just so close to being a really, really good player. He's involved in so much. He gets so many opportunities. He always gets something on a cross somehow. I don't know how he manages it. He got assists in the other games. Obviously, his XGI is right up there as well. And I think he's a better player at the end of the day. I feel like he can just
I'm going to whisper it. But he's definitely a better player.
The problem is he's 8 million and the other guys, 7-1 now or 7-2. I guess that's the problem, right? But I still feel like Richarlison could do better than him and have a better season.
So we're all ignoring Everton.
Well, I'm not. I've got Dina, but that's about it. Attacking wise, I mean, if they put 2 or 3 goals past Palace, I think we're going to have to take notice. And Rodriguez, I like Luke. Calvert-Lewin hurts me now because he's gone up. He's probably gone up by 0.3 now, hasn't he?
He's not 2 at the moment.
Right, yeah it'll be 0.3 soon. I mean, Dino, I think I'm really pleased to have him, right? Because he offers some attacking threat.
He looks a real threat.
And I mean, if Richarlison gets penalties, that's going to change things. No one really knows if James is going to get them or Richarlison. I think it'll be Richarlison. Owning Richarlison is real fun as well, I think. He's such a kind of loose cannon. He can do anything. He can pull a worldie out of nowhere, gets on the end of crosses. He's a real fun player to own and watch when you've got him in your team.
Unless Calvert-Lewin's banging in hat-tricks.
Yeah, but the Calvert-Lewin thing, I mean, if Che Adams had some of the luck that Calvert-Lewin got in that game, Adams would be on 3 or 4 goals by now.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things. We'll see what happens at Palace. I think we talked about Everton's fixtures. They really are the acid test for them. If they come out of the next 3 and they still look good and those assets are still getting ownership, then, I might have to backtrack and take a look at
Rodriguez is still the one that I think I want out of the 3, just because he is that. I just love that kind of player who's just involved in everything, taking the corners, not taking all the free kicks because Dean's still on them, but just so involved in and around the penalty area, making things happen.
He wasn't involved in the first half that much, though. Did you notice on the right wing, he didn't really have much of a kick to begin with, and then when he started drifting in, he was just devastating.
Well, that's it. When they start getting him on the ball, that's when things start happening. As soon as they started getting him more central and pulling the strings, that's when Everton started scoring all the goals.
Yeah, but McCarthy, they're not going to let that happen, are they? That's the thing, right? Hodgson, agricultural challenges, early doors.
We laugh, but I mean, I can't believe Palace. I cannot believe, Sacco coming back. He's been out for how long?
Good player.
And he puts in a performance like that.
And the thing is, he was actually dreadful when he came back the last time.
Yeah.
He was really bad. Palace fans were saying they didn't want him in the team because he was that bad the last time he came back, but they've got Coyote at centre back with him as well. How's this working?
I write him off every year. Every year I write him off. I get so much stick for it on Twitter because obviously I'm a Brighton fan, so I write him off. And then every year Hodgson's just gets them playing.
I think
like they do.
I think Sacco's like Ledley King. I bet he doesn't train. He just turns up for the match day, goes because he's knackered, isn't he?
Cigar in mouth.
Yeah,
Definitely not as good as Ledley King though.
Well, okay, but he's one of those players who's so injury prone. He probably can't train anywhere near the same intensity. But when he's in the team, he makes a hell of a difference to their defence. And we said, didn't we? Oh, Palace, they're going to get routed because they've got injuries at the back. But when you throw Sacco in there, he makes up for the absentees because he's such a monster. He's a leader at the back as well, and he gets the BPS. We know that as well. So it's all about him. The ball just gravitates to him, and he clears the lines and helps them get clean sheets.
How do they keep managing to find these 4 million? I mean, I know they don't say they're 4 million. But
I was going to say, I don't think they.
But like Wan-Bissaka at 4 million comes in, and Mitchell. I got him in thinking he might do all right for a few weeks. He looks
good.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
He's absolutely brilliant player. Getting that assist against United was just ridiculous because you wouldn't expect him to get anything from that game. I mean, 2 returns in 2 from 4 million defender. It's like, how does this happen every year? You get a Lundstrom or a Wan-Bissaka or whoever it is. It's he's a great option when their fixtures turn.
Oh yeah.
Better. He's going to be someone you want to play as well.
Yeah,
what happens when Patrick Van Arnold comes back?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'd personally play Patrick Van Arnold left wing. I think because he's better going forward than his defensively. But we'll see what Roy does. It'll be a shame for him to take him out of the team.
Got lots of options, and also we're waiting for Ferguson to be fit, and then I can go alien to Ferguson and free up some cash, and we're all waiting because the fixtures really do turn for them as well. So yeah, Palace are a gift to us. I think. I mean, they Zaha's giving points that we didn't expect. Whether that will continue when he moves, I don't think he'll stay up front. I think
on Pens as well now. Are you missing that one? Maybe
he could be. Yeah, he could have them first. So I
think he's more likely to miss Pens and score on that. Although that was a good one.
Yeah.
But you've also got Eze. How do you say his name?
Eze
to try and get into the team as well. It's questionable there. I just want to give a shout out to Lacazette on this list, by the way. I think he's looked fantastic so far, but we're just never going to pick him, are we? Because
he's too much. 8.5
too much money.
Too much.
He's looked so good, and he is a good forward. Then you've got early subs for Nikita, and you've got Aubameyang in the team, so he's going to be one of those guys who's always there or thereabouts, so like in that fantasy mid-world that never quite make it to our team but look good.
No,
unless Nketiah gets injured.
Yeah,
which.
You feel sorry for him, don't you? Because he's never really been a leading fancy asset. Yeah, he has been a class player, but he's been patchy last season. So
do you remember when Emery used to just sub him at half time? I owned him for a long period. He kept getting subbed at half time. It was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, that puts off, didn't it? That's what it is. No one wants to go there again. Not with Eddie about. Definitely not with Eddie about. Right, let's talk about Pens again because it's getting a bit silly, isn't it? And this table, I mean, it's only 2 game weeks gone, but I looked back at the total Pens in the last episode. So what I did this time is I looked to see how many Pens there were in the first 2 game weeks.
How did you get this stat?
That's easy. Fantasy Football Scout's got the data. It's there to everyone. So effectively,
that wasn't a deliberate plug.
No, I know it wasn't. But it is.
Wondering.
You just do custom tables, penalties faced, basically. So as you can see here, though, look back to the previous years when we had 8 and 7 penalties. They were the years with the highest totals.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the fact we've had 13 so far, isn't it pretty certain we're going to have a higher total than 106? And if you extrapolate that, we're looking at what, 120, 125? Surely not. I mean, my theory is that the referees are going to get together and go, look, this is getting a bit out of control. We've got to do something about it. But I don't know what they can do about it now because underneath this table is Dale Johnson's table. Dale Johnson, who writes for ESPN, has made this VAR and defensive handballs his go-to thing at the moment. He's doing a lot of threads on it in Twitter. We talked about him last week. He posted this data from the various leagues to highlight just how much the Premier League has lagged behind in recent seasons. You look at League One last year, 31 penalties for handball, Bundesliga 22, which actually went down, 57 in Serie A, 48 in La Liga, and we were down on 20. So we're miles behind. And now apparently FIFA have got onto the Premier League and said, look, you've got to be harsher. So the theory is we're going to catch up. That's penalties for handball as well. 57 penalties for handball in Serie A last season. It's crazy.
The penalties like we've been seeing, it's because I mean we'll talk about when we Luke. Yeah, you sent a great message. Yeah, I mean how they can give a penalty for something which hits your arm when you're in the middle of a running motion.
Perhaps I'm a dinosaur, but at the end of the day, for me, a penalty in my mind has always been, a misdemeanor's happened, something bad has happened, or you're about to score a goal in some way, because a penalty is close to a goal, isn't it? It's pretty much a goal. So, there's some exceptional circumstances, but most of the time it's going to be like you've completely taken someone out in the penalty area. You've literally handled the ball and stopped it going into the goal like you are the goalkeeper, even though you're a defender. That's the kind of stuff you should be getting penalties for. And right now, you're just getting them from complete lottery. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just bouncing off of people and hitting them in their arms when they're not even in an unnatural position, and they're giving them for a penalty. For me, that is just luck. I mean, you can do all the research you want on who's going to get a clean sheet in this game, X, Y, Z. All it takes is that to happen, and it's suddenly out the window. It's just really annoying that they're going to give them for that. All we can do is pick penalty takers, I guess.
That's it.
I don't like it.
Yeah, that's the strategy, isn't it?
But we don't want that, do we? We don't want it to be that simple.
It's not football. No. Because for me, right, let me just go down this thread a little bit. There are certain teams that spend a lot of the game in the opponent's penalty box. Man City stand out straight away. I think Sterling had the most touches of any player in the opponent's penalty box. Right? They're basically camped out in some games. So for me, just on this alone, for the handball penalties, they're more likely to get more of these because the ball's in the box more often. So straight away, I'm thinking, well, De Bruyne's going to hit 10, 15 penalties here to his normal tally that he's going to get of his outfield goals and his assists and everything else. We're suddenly looking at, if he stays fit, you could potentially looking at record points for someone like that, I think. I genuinely believe that Man City could be getting a penalty every other game the way it's going.
Well, just look at the way City, when Stace dived in and took out
De Bruyne.
De Bruyne, yeah. So that came from nothing. Like that ball into the box came so quickly. They get the ball into the box so quickly and invite those kind of challenges. So ignoring the handball thing, I think they get penalties anyway because of things like that. You add in that rule as well. I completely agree. It's why I think De Bruyne is just, I think, no one wants to use the word essential, but I don't see how you cannot have him because he's going to get monster hauls wherever he plays.
You couldn't. I mean, I went into that game against Wolves thinking, okay, I'm about 70-30 in favour of De Bruyne. But then when I saw him perform as he did, it was all over. And the penalties are just never factor in his favour. And yeah, I mean, Salah's the same, really. Can you go without Salah? We talked about, doing shuffling the heavy hitters, but De Bruyne, once you've got De Bruyne and Salah, they're going to get penalties in any game. You can't look at fixtures and go, well, that's a hard game for Salah, so I'm not going to play him, or I'm going to get rid of him and get another heavy hitter because he's got those penalties in his favour.
You do your late riser.
Yeah, well, it's tricky for him. I think this has made it harder for him with those two now. I just want to go back to these stats, Dale Johnson, because Bundesliga went down from 38 in 2018-19 to 22 penalties for handball. And the theory is behind that, they're saying it went down because the defenders learned to adapt. Now, do we think there's a chance that will happen? We've had 2 weeks of it. Obviously, managers are surely saying to their defenders, right, do not put your arms, do not extend them from your body under any circumstances. So do we think that's going to happen, that behaviour change is going to happen and it's going to slow it down?
Well, it didn't happen in Serie A or La Liga.
No,
in Serie A, it went up from 37 to 57. In La Liga, it went up from 35 to 48.
But there's something about German efficiency meant they learned.
Probably.
Or maybe they're just a little bit more... going on the basis of our defenders, I don't think we've got that many good ones in our league, to be honest. So I'd be surprised if they could adapt. How can you adapt to some of those penalties? You could play them. There's no way you can adapt to some of them that they were given over the weekend. What can you possibly do apart from just have no arms? You cut them off.
Well, Castan's profile picture in FPL is him with no arms, so he's going to.
Oh, is it?
He's probably going to be the best.
Advantage, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is it's a crazy variable that we didn't really see coming. Yeah. That it's definitely. I mean, it was rumoured that it was going to be a factor. I didn't think we'd see it materialise after 2 game weeks. Like, it's crazy. By this time last season, there were only 4 penalties, and we've had 13. Yeah, that's astonishing.
It is.
Yeah, so I think if you take this forward and you try to get penalty takers, but also look who is getting the ball in the box an awful lot. Yeah. So there's some teams like, for example, Burnley, they basically bypass the midfield and hoof it to wood every time, right? And then they basically hoof it around when they're in the box. So I don't want to be disrespectful.
Harsh, very harsh.
I feel like Wood who is a good goal scorer anyway, is going to end up getting, he's going to be valued. I mean, I think there's a shout here to just go with a lot of these, like Morpai, you already saw the list here, these cheap strikers who are also on penalties, your Mitrovic, your Morpais, your Antonios, who potentially on all these guys. You could ignore the expensive forwards, go with them, and then you can have your Bruno Fernandez, your Kevin De Bruyne, and your Salah in midfield. And
build a whole team of penalty takers. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I started with 5 in my team. I didn't get any, but there we go.
Of course
Other people did, like Salah.
Oh, leave it. It's funny because I nearly tweeted, Ollie Norwood and Mark Noble, anyone, because they're not players you want to sign, but then neither of them turned up for game week 2. So it's a good job I didn't tweet that.
What's interesting now is that a lot of the old penalty takers like Noble or Jorginho and the 5.5 million midfielders you'd never consider getting in have lost their they've lost their penalty duties now, a lot of them, to the strikers and to the players who you do want anyway. So like De Bruyne, for example, like if it's going to be I don't know, Rodri taking the penalty, like you can think, do I want to get Rodri and risk him? Thinking, maybe, but now it's De Bruyne. You're like, whoa, that's now.
When it's De Bruyne and Salah,
to a player's price, I think you can add $1 million to a player's price if they take penalties now. If it's Klitsch and he's 5.5, I think you can almost say he's a 6 or a 6.5. If they get the penalties that we think they could, you look at Salah. There's no way he's a 12 million midfielder. Now the way it's going to be for me, he is going to be.
If they've got some kind of threat outside of set plays and they're taking penalties, they've become an amazing.
Jorginho is one of the highest goal scorers in the game off the back of 2 games.
Yeah, but now he's missed the penalty. Is Werner going to take the next one? That'd be nice.
So do you think? I mean, potentially Salah and De Bruyne could beat their points records on the back of this.
I think De Bruyne will.
Yeah, De Bruyne will. I don't know how many penalties Liverpool will get, but
if they stay fit, I think there's every chance, right? I mean, De Bruyne's arguably in his prime right now, and going to be so key to them. I mean, we haven't seen the best of De Bruyne, I don't think, yet. I think he's just so good.
That's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
That really is. Okay, prices. Do you want to rant about this then, Ez? I'll bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really got too much to rant about. Luke has, so he's going to be the main rant.
Is he ready to go? Right.
Yeah, I just had a look through because it is a bit weird, some of the things that are happening with prices this season. And I know a lot of people make early moves to try and get in on price rises. Mark, you do that.
I love a bit of that. Yeah.
A bit of that. Luke wildcarded early this season so that he could try and jump aboard and get some value out of eke some more value out of some of these players. And actually, when you look at it, it's a bit strange how little movement there's been in terms of these price rises, which makes me think, and it's complete guesswork, that there is something happening behind the scenes with FPL, maybe slowing down prices of players, locking prices of players, that kind of
jiggery
thing.
Pokery going on, you reckon?
Jiggery pokery, yeah. Right. So on my list, so just two that I've got here. So there's quite a few examples, but I mean, James Rodriguez, perfect example, 7.5 million. He's had, since the start of the season, he's had 775,000 new owners and not gone up in price, which just is baffling. And he's, if people are using these price rise websites like FPL Statistics and Fix and that kind of thing, he's always, well over the threshold.
Yeah.
And then the next day comes around, then he's back down to 80-90%. So something's going a bit strange with that. Then you've got Castan as well. So he went up in price last night. He's up to 5.6, but he's had 414,000 new owners since game week 1. So I would expect him, he's had 3 assists already this season. I'd expect someone like that, a 5.5 million Leicester player, to go up quite a lot, especially with that amount of sales, and hasn't. And then you look at some of the players who haven't been performing very well. So look at Werner. He's had a net sale of 671,000 people getting rid of him, hasn't dropped in price yet.
Yeah, I've been on the phone, haven't I? I've been on the blower.
Yeah, it's all you. It's because you've got him in your team. Yeah, that's the rumours.
Don't start that.
I mean, Havertz as well. So Havertz dropped last night, but he's had nearly 500,000 sellers. Martial, there's 2 inch on here. So Martial and Fernandez. This is what makes me think that there definitely had to be some kind of lock on United and City players, because Martial and Fernandez have both actually had a net increase of players since the start of the season. So people buying them in after game week 1. They're actually, Fernandez is halfway to a drop and Martial's 3/4 of the way to a drop, despite Martial having 150,000 net new owners and Fernandez having 252,000 new owners. So there's something, obviously.
Yeah, something was done with them because they missed game week 1.
Yeah.
Right? So they were treated differently, because I think all the pricing tools had to do something to tweak the algorithm with that. I mean, it's a dark art, isn't it? And I kind of put a thread on Twitter about, should they lock prices for the first few weeks? And it got a lot of replies, some in favour, some not. Luke, go on then. You want to have a go about this, don't you? You can't wait to get started. So you're against the rises, are you? I mean, it is making us make decisions that perhaps we wouldn't have made if they weren't so volatile.
I guess mine's personal because, I mean, it's for me, in my mind at least, it's forced my decision to wildcard because I had so many people dropping. I mean, I wanted Ings against Spurs, but I wasn't going to do it because I didn't want to absorb the drop, for example. It's part of the game. You just have to accept it. For me, I just feel like, part of me just wants the game to stay how it was. It's been great for a long time. You don't want to mess with something that isn't broken. But then they started adding these chips and stuff, which I didn't really like either. So why not now bring it to 2020 and at least be, open about what's going on? I think
that's the key thing with me is do you both think that the game would benefit if there was a bit more transparency around how these things work? And I'm not saying everything has to be available to everyone. So, it doesn't have to be a number. And if it hits a certain number, they're going to drop it. Because I think, like you've said, Mark, they want to keep a bit of that, so they can have the right to do certain things. But at the same time, I think something like locking the City and United players, I don't really know why they couldn't have said that at the start of the season to stop.
It would have massively benefited a lot of us because a lot of us have made decisions and made early transfers based on the fact these guys are going to rise. They've never come out and said it either way. So, these tools could just be inaccurate at the end of the day. But, in the past, they've been very, very accurate. So that's hard to believe. But I just feel like there should now be a system. I mean, it really does put off new players. You introduce someone to FPL and then you try to explain the price rise, the sale, you only get half your price when you go back. I mean, I've introduced a couple of people this season that I'm trying to explain how to play the game. They shouldn't be listening to me. I just want to put that out there, Sherry. But in terms of the price rises, that's where I've lost them every time. I've just said, look, don't worry about that. I'll let you know if you need to make a transfer.
Don't worry about that, but it is quite crucial to the game. When that's the problem.
Exactly. But to be honest, I know that was part of my lessons learned, wasn't it? I need to not worry about it so much because I worry about it too much. So I just feel like there needs to be a system in place. I think like if it was like on Friday, people rose and you knew who was going to rise and they didn't do it throughout the week. And, it was like a star system. I think I talked to you about it before. So you don't even need to know the numbers behind it. They could just be like, 1, 2 or 3 stars, depending if they're going to rise 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. And you can see, on Friday at deadline, when it locks, Werner will be 7.2 after this point. So are you going to get him or are you not going to get him? At least it's transparent in some way. It's going to happen. It doesn't force your decisions, You could make the transfer and get the money and not think he's even going to do well in that game, or vice versa or whatever. But I just don't like the way now you just don't know what's going to happen. And if they have tweaks it in some way off of the norm, then that's just frustrating. Because
I think, like I was saying, I like price rises. I like the fact that it adds an extra element of strategy to the game. So you can make your moves early and run the risk of getting Martial at 9 million, even though because he's going to go up 0.2 because he just scored a hat trick, for example. So I very nearly, when Son scored all those goals, I nearly dumped Havertz and got Son because I knew Havertz was going to go down and Son was going to go up 0.2. And so immediately thinking, that's a 0.3 difference. So there's a strategy element to it. It's not always the right move, but at least it gives you that sort of option to do it. Whereas other people want to wait until the end of the week because then you see about injuries and you see about, tactics and like Pulisic getting a knock in, you might not get that till the press conference. So there's different ways of playing the game with price rises. But I do definitely think there should be the fact that people are relying on these other systems to kind of guess price rise and stuff. It doesn't seem right to me. I'm sure there must be a better system that they could come up with, which would just give people a bit more indication as to when certain players are going to rise.
Yeah, we have this every season.
Yeah,
even if they're going to keep it, I think they should have said that these guys are locked if that's the case, if they are locked, because that's been massive for a lot of people, panicking to get Man City and rightly. I mean, De Bruyne, look how good he was. Look how amazing he was for that game we won, and people want him in their team. He's the highest scorer last season.
I mean, surely the only reason Rodriguez hasn't gone up in price is because he's a new signing. Right?
I don't know if that's a factor. But the thing is, when you say they should be informing people about the lock, when you start saying that, you've got that unravels a whole load of other stuff. It's like, what's a lock mean? What do you mean lock? Lock what?
Yeah, I understand.
When you start pointing to the price rises, you have to unravel a whole load of other instructions and explanations, and they don't want to get into that. So I can absolutely see why. But the trouble, the way I look at it is people are saying on Twitter, on my thread, saying, well, it makes the game too easy. But in game design, if you've got something which is kind of hidden to the player and coaxes the player into making mistakes, you play video games. That's not great game design, right? It's the principles of that, because there's no doubt about it. We make errors as a result of being prioritising price rises and falls. Not every manager does it. I certainly do, right? So fair play to those who don't know notice, and I'm not saying that I'm right, but it is. I think it's a factor in every manager's mind at some point in the season. This player's going down or this player's going up, and you think about it, right? And you can let it guide your decision. Yeah,
I think.
And so I don't think a hidden mechanic should have that level of influence on the players. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen in other game design, right? But the problem is the hardcore like us have got used to it, and whereas we're saying, okay, to welcome new players, they should do something about it. A lot of the hardcore don't want to touch it because they feel that it's their domain. It's like their secret ownership of this. They understand it, they can use it. And I totally get that because that happens in game design as well. So I think the FPL are in a difficult spot now. They don't want to change it and upset this loyal hardcore. At the same time, they're still getting new players. The game is still growing. So why bother? Leave it as it is. That's going to be their attitude, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't see him changing it.
No, nor do I. And I mean, you know, like it's Timo says in the chat, FPL is too full of luck. I think that the price rises add in another element of luck to it. Because if your player can somehow survive until the end of the week, even though he's sold even like Werner, for example, has got rid of 700,000 owners, and he's somehow managed to survive a price drop to the end of the week, and then you can sell him on the Saturday for the same price.
Nothing to do with me, honestly, but I retract that stuff.
yeah.
But why don't you say the casuals will just completely ignore all of this, right? And sometimes be better off for it. But then you're saying the very top managers, the ones who manage to get this out of their mind, also ignore it and go, so we're in this, well, I'm certainly in this middle ground where I let it influence me too much. So yeah, I appreciate it's my own fault, but sometimes it can really affect. You don't want to start the season with 33 points and 99.4 million for a team.
That could have happened to you.
Exactly, especially with a season where you want all of these and there's so many good players. As far as I'm concerned, I need as much money as possible because there's so many bloody good damn options all over the place.
This season's definitely different in terms of these. I mean, I'm sure that previous seasons have been more volatile in terms of players going up and down than this. It does feel like something's, again, completely not based on anything, but it does feel like there is definitely something that's stopping certain players going up and down.
And you liken it to games, Mark, there, but what happens in games is usually the hardcore do go on the Reddit and say, we want this from the patch notes, we want this transparency for this, and that's basically what we're doing, I guess. It would just be nice to know. I know that you're saying it's hard and it's difficult to explain a lock and all this stuff, but my argument is it's hard enough to explain price rises to someone who doesn't know what's going on.
I tell you, when I worked for the Premier League, I had to try and explain the game to new players, and it's not easy. And if they said to me, right, can you write some articles about the price rises? I'll be like, you're joking. So I can see what task there is ahead, right? If they do that, and I just don't see them doing it.
I love this image of you though that a lot of people have got of you like on a big Julius Caesar type throne going, Rodriguez, no price rise today.
It's in the shed. That's why I have to record down here.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. It's all about. I mean, it's part of the fun, I guess. It's part of the appeal of the game. It's like
we'll suck it up.
It's like the bonus points, right? The bonus points. We have a moan about. We haven't done it this season yet. Strangely, surely that's coming up. Someone getting bonus when they shouldn't have done, or we feel they shouldn't have done. So it's it's part of the beauty of the game, I guess. So yeah, but we'll come back to this. I'm sure it'll be a topic we look at later in the season and again next season. I'm sure. But okay, let's look at the fixtures. Let's start looking ahead. Game week 3 then. Should we go through these quite quickly? Brighton United last season, that was very one-sided. I'll come to you, because you'll probably have a very pessimistic view of how that's going to go. But Brighton at Newcastle, hugely impressive, I thought. Really impressive.
It's the best I've seen us play, for sure. Lamptey is a doubt, which is a worry.
He's quite good, isn't he? Did you mention Lamptey before?
I think 50 million again was too low. I think I'm putting up to 60, 70 now. If he's out and Basuma's out, I'm concerned because our midfield is a lot stronger with Basuma in it. Stevens is now on his way out, so I'm not really sure who'll come in, to be honest.
Stevens to Burnley, that's the most Burnley-like transfer I've ever heard.
Isn't it? I know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. He's not a great player. He's a player who has a job in the team and does it well. But I'm not too sad to see.
Very diplomatic, that is.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I do like Dale Stevens. But I think we're going to struggle against United, to be honest. I mean, I was there at Old Trafford last year, and they tore us apart and they had Pereira in and other rubbish that they weren't anywhere near as strong as they are now. I think Lingard might even have played, and they just tore us apart. But it's the pace. The pace just got, and we're not going to sit back like Palace. We push. We're going to push players forward, and there's going to be gaps to exploit. And I don't think it's going to be very pretty, to be honest. So I'm expecting a United win, unfortunately.
Luke, you going for that?
No, I suppose it's just being a fan, isn't it? I mean, after our first performance, how can I back us in that game? I mean, it depends which players we've got coming back, I guess. And I have to hope that we had a rocket up our arse because we were terrible. I don't know. I feel like the onus will be on us to try and attack, but Brighton are very good at keeping the ball. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a 1-1, something like that. Believe me, with Bruno in my team and Martial in my team currently, I really hope it's not that. But being the early kickoff as well, there's always that thing in my mind where it's just going to be a washout for my team.
It is funny because Brighton are seen as a nice fixture, aren't they? They're seen as like they're a team that can let you play, and if you can open them up, you really will open them up.
And they don't score a lot of goals. I think they only scored around 40 goals last season. They've done that for quite a while since they've been in the league. They don't score an awful lot.
The biggest problem with Brighton is that, like, and I said it last week, we've got mistakes. We've got mistakes in the team. Like we play so well for long periods, and then something happens, and it's why I think
the best team for like half an hour.
It's why I think United is such a bad game, because the pace of the front three can exploit defensive mistakes and slips. And we're going to be up far up the pitch. I don't know. I'm worried about this one.
Yeah, we didn't have much movement in the first game. The energy clearly wasn't there. So I depends how hard they've worked on the training pitch. We should win on paper at the end of the day, but I'm not confident.
Bruno, penalty incoming. Palace Everton we've spoke about. I think this, as I said, is a bit of an acid test for Rodriguez and so on. I think, I don't know. It's a very difficult one to call because Palace are surprising us all, aren't they? I do think Everton might get a result there by 1-0. Actually, I think they'll grind out a win.
Sounds about right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you seen Pickford in goal? I think they'll concede a goal.
1-1.
Yeah.
I mean, Mina was shocking in the last game as well. Pickford's got some stick, but Mina, if he backs up anymore, end up in the car park. I don't know what he's doing. His defending was awful in that game. Michael Keane's not much better. I feel like the way Palace are playing. I mean, they're another team who average around 40 goals a season. Very low scoring Palace, but I can't see them not scoring the way they're playing at the moment. Those three at the back, I think they'll get a goal.
Damn, you're ruining my Dina clean sheet there. West Brom Chelsea, surely only one way. I mean, especially after tonight, if Havertz got the hat trick, is that confirmed by the way?
Yeah,
it is.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with that now, because I'm just thinking if Havertz can get something against West Brom, and then it looks like Pulisic and Chilwell and Ziyech are coming in, he's going to suddenly be really good if he's got some confidence back. So I've gone from, I saw him starting today and I was worried about it. It's actually Andy who sort of said, it's good. He only got 45 minutes the other day, so it's good that he's getting some minutes. And I was like, okay, yeah. But I was thinking, if he blanks in this game against Barnsley, it's not exactly going to make me feel very confident about him going forward. But I'm feeling quite good about him now.
Yeah, I think you should be. I'm a bit worried actually. I've got to think that. I mean, I haven't seen the game, so I don't know what the goals were like. But if he has,
Tom in the chat, it's bloody Barnsley.
Yeah, he's true. He's got a good point. But then
let me have some optimism.
But it's bloody West Brom. It's bloody West Brom.
Ross Barkley scored us. So there you go.
Don't get carried away. We'll see. You got to think Chelsea, Burnley, Southampton. I think he'll turn it round here. I think they'll get a result, Southampton. I mean, Chris Wood's not going to trouble the high line, is he? They haven't got any pace up front, really, Burnley. So
that's true. Yeah.
So I think that the pressing game, Burnley aren't good enough on the ball, and I think they will nick a couple. I think they won there last year, Southampton. I fancy them here, and surely Adams gets his goal. That's what I want. More than anything is Adams' goal. So I'm going 2-0 Southampton.
Wow. They've still got Tarkowski out, I think, as well. So big miss at the back for them. I just can't see Southampton keeping a clean sheet, though. I reckon it's...
No, McCarthy's got to go, isn't he? McCarthy's got to go for me and everybody else.
Is there not an argument to say that, Ralph might sort of look at that game that happened and say, like, we're not going to play that high line in this game?
No, he will play it. He'll stick to it. Yeah,
I mean, he should in this game for the reasons you just mentioned about Wood and stuff, but... there's part of me thinks that maybe he'll try and address it, but probably not because he just seems
Eric Peters is going to have a field day.
Yeah, Eric Peters field day. Yeah, we're looking for. Honestly, on Chris Wood, I listened to the Scoutcast. We can't pick on Chris Wood because Az absolutely roasted him in that on Tuesday, didn't you?
I like Chris Wood. Don't get me wrong. He's a decent striker, but this is a season when you've got unprecedented amount of options, and if you're using a spot on your team for Chris Wood, I think you've got. You must be the most boring person I've ever met in my life.
Chris Wood's a decent player, mate.
Yeah, he is.
He's just completely buoyed off those defenders the other day.
Come
He's an absolute
on,
beast.
it's Burnley. They've got no squad. They've got no. I'm sorry. There's better options. For
What I can see
Chris
coming,
Wood.
I can see a double game week coming and the triple captainship, and you're going, I'm going to have to put it on Wood like I did Andy Carroll a few seasons
That's
back.
different. If he's got a double game week, I just think I'd rather have Foden. Foden at 6.5. I'd much rather have Foden than Chris Wood.
Good point. Sheffield United Leeds, that's got 0-0 written all over it. But
hope
Leeds,
so.
surely not. Leeds just seem to have this chaotic streak about them. I was watching them against Fulham, and Fulham were out of it completely. And Leeds just went, I'll leave the back door open. There you go, have a couple of goals. And it was like, what are you doing? I mean, Fulham didn't look like scoring, and they just let them back into the game.
I couldn't understand it. When I was watching that game, I was watching Leeds defending around the penalty area, and they just seemed to have so much space, Fulham, to kind of try and make things happen. And they weren't really good enough to do it, but then kind of were towards the end of the match. But if they afford that space to teams in other matches.
Yeah, but Sheffield United...
City next week.
I know, that's the big one. I mean, I think if you're looking for the next hat-trick, I reckon it could come for City at Leeds. But Sheffield United, Leeds, looking at a 1-1 maybe, something like that. It's going to be... I don't think... It's a derby, right? There's going to be a lot of passion in that game.
They're both high-energy teams, though. Yeah, I suppose it's just whether they can put it in the back of the net. But Banter's managed to do it so far, which I'm surprised about.
Defying the XG. Spurs Newcastle. Do we think Son's going to carry it on?
Really low scoring, I reckon.
Do you?
1-0 Spurs.
Yeah. I don't.
Nothing for Son. I'm putting it out there now.
No.
Nothing for Son in that game.
No, he'll go back to being hugging the touchline probably, and we'll see Spurs having to figure out a defence rather than like help themselves like I did against Southampton. Newcastle are not going to be anywhere near as obliging, are they? So,
no.
Yeah, I think Spurs will still do it though. City Leicester. Right, this is interesting because we're all getting De Bruyne in, and we're going to get to captains in a bit.
Breaking news as well: Ndidi could be out for 6 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, but Evans could be back in defence.
Yeah, but Ndidi out is a massive.
Yeah, Ndidi in midfield, if that's where he goes back to. You think City are going to win this, but is there going to be a glut of goals?
Yeah.
You do feel?
Yeah.
All right.
For anything like they did against Wolves, 3 or 4-0.
Really? You think?
Yeah.
Leicester, I mean, where did they finish 6th last season, didn't they?
They just conceded 2 to Burnley at home.
Yeah, they did. I mean, everyone thought Leicester were going to struggle at the beginning of the season because they had a lot of players out and they didn't look great in lockdown. And they've started well, so it's a surprise. But they've also had easy games, so it's a very hard one to judge. I think that's the problem.
I think this KDB in this for this one.
Okay,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think City should probably win, but I don't know whether it's going to be a rout or not. I think they might set up very defensively. But
Brendan Rodgers is a good manager. He's not going to let them lose 4 or 5-0 at City.
I don't think he'd be able to stop it.
I mean, they were incredibly impressive, right? I've got to say. I mean, I think that's the best I've seen City play for a long, long time. I couldn't really believe what I was watching. And I think your comment about Wolves staying with them, any other team, it could have been 5 or 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I just worry is like at the moment it doesn't look. I mean, Vardy seems to just have. I mean, I know he's quite often like this, but he doesn't seem to have any threat from open play at the moment whatsoever. And it's like his legs have almost gone a little bit now. He is obviously getting on. I know we say this all the time. I know.
Writing him off, yeah.
But Barnes is very much the threat from open play for me
is,
on there.
Yeah.
And then they sometimes put Iñárritu in there to help Vardy out, and I don't think they're going to do that in this game. So I think you'd be looking at Barnes really for the goal. I don't see apart from a penalty, which again we say all this, you could just get 3 penalties in the game for handball. So
they've got 2 lovely games after this. Leicester, West Ham, and Villa, I think. At home, both 2 home games. So Barnes is.
You don't have to remind me. You don't have to remind me. I got there first. I guess because I've had Podence, you can have Barnes.
Yeah, exactly.
We swap our targets.
Yeah.
West Ham Wolves. That's only going one way, isn't it? It's just a question of the margin of victory, I think. Do you not
David
think?
Moyes won't be on the touchline because he's got coronavirus.
Diop won't be in defence. So
it's going to be a bloodbath, isn't it?
I don't think it'll be a bloodbath. I think Wolves will just settle for a 2-0, but I think they're going to manage that
West
game.
West Ham do have a knack, though, don't they, of turning up in games you don't expect them. It's kind of the West Ham thing: do rubbish and then do good in games you don't expect. I don't know. Yeah, Wolves should win it, shouldn't they? But I think West Ham might score. That Souček goal's coming eventually. Maybe Wolves will be a bit.
QCV Rob says, "Do we think the game's in any danger of not playing?"
Not what we're hearing at the moment. I think it's going to have to be an extensive spread of that across the West Ham ranks before the postponement.
I mean, they played, didn't they? They even played.
Yeah.
They had the confirmed case, and still that game went ahead.
But it's a reminder that we can't be complacent. We've got to have people on the bench. I've got a good bench, but Souček's on it, so that's no use to me whatsoever, is it? But we'll see. Fulham Villa, well, this is obviously the Grealish hat-trick, but apart from that, do you reckon, I think Villa will win it.
Big game for Fulham.
I think that's, of all the games, even though Fulham don't look like to defend that well, I feel like that could be 0-0.
0-0? Yeah, it could be.
I don't know.
No,
Villa just
Villa will
struggle
get
to
one.
score, but are quite solid now, I think. And they haven't been that good away last season.
Fulham,
they just pass it about at home.
I'm going to go for a Fulham win.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I remember what Villa did to Norwich. I don't think they're going to do that, but I think they're going to win 2-0. I think they're going to.
I had McGinn in that game. They got nothing.
Yeah.
I think Mitrovic will struggle against Konsa and Mings. I think that's the kind of.
They're not going to give him much.
They're the kind of centre backs that could do well against Mitrovic.
Yeah,
but Villa are terrible away most of the time. That's the problem.
But
they get 0 clean sheets away last season.
Yeah, but the keepers make a difference, right? I mean, already Martinez has instilled confidence in them. You can see it. Like when you've got a good keeper behind you, I've seen it with my own team, Forest. As soon as you get a decent keeper, the defence suddenly starts looking a lot better, and you don't know why, but they're not on edge. They're not anxious. They know the keeper's behind them, and and Martinez is a very, very decent keeper.
They were unlucky last year with Heaton, weren't they? Because they bought a good keeper last year and he got injured.
Yeah, I think Villa then. And then the big one, Liverpool Arsenal. Again, it's like Man City Leicester. Do you think, I don't see a route there at all.
No. Maybe 2-1 Liverpool.
Arsenal are very good against the big teams.
They are. Yeah, I wouldn't know where to call this really. I think it could be maybe even 1-1. I'll go for 1-1.
Well, in the last two games, Arteta's games in charge of Arsenal, they've beaten them and taken them into extra time and beaten them on penalties. So so he's beaten them twice.
I'd go I think Arsenal will score. They just seem to have that knack of doing that in these kind of games.
You know what's going to happen is exactly what VHH says on the chat. Aubameyang is going to outscore De Bruyne because it's the move everyone's making, and you just know. And then he's got Sheffield United at home next week.
Yeah,
and then it'd be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't.
Well, Liverpool do push up and have a high line, don't they? And Arteta knows that, especially at home. I feel like they're going to be breaking through occasionally. So a couple of handball penalties coming to Arsenal's or Aubameyang. I'd say 2-1, 3-1 Liverpool, but it could. Arsenal are good in these games now. I think they're really hard to call.
I'll go 1-0 Liverpool. I think it'll be tight, but I'll set for 1-0. Okay, let's start looking ahead to game week 3. Let's bring your team up so you've made your changes here.
Move.
Yeah, they're all done and dusted.
All done, yeah. So De Bruyne's in for Aubameyang, obviously. I don't think my team looks too bad this week. My biggest problem was Havertz and whether to keep him, and I feel like I can now because he's got a hat-trick. Ben Davies is probably my biggest worry because obviously they've signed a new left back, Regulion. I don't know how you pronounce it. It must be more Spanish.
I'm not even going to try it. I'm still struggling with Aubameyang.
That's pretty good.
Regulion, whatever it is. So it's just whether Davies can have one more game. If I get one more game out of him, the Europa League match will be interesting tomorrow. I think if Davies plays tomorrow in the Europa League, I will probably bin him, and I could get. I really want Semedo. So I would probably look to do Semedo in if I could.
He's not going to play at West Ham, though, is he? You reckon he's going to come straight in?
Yeah, he did it with Marcel.
Yeah, true. And maybe he'll say in the press conference, no, he needs time. He needs definitely needs time. So
that's your signal to get him straight in.
Yeah, I mean, mate, he's the one I want kind of long term. So if I don't get him, then I probably won't make the move. Because I've got Mitchell who can come in.
Good old Mitchell.
Yeah, good old Mitchell. So but next week my team's looking a bit more dodgy. So that's going to be the test of the wildcard resolve, I think.
But, so here's one for you. How long before Havertz starts becoming a captaincy consideration for you?
Well, he's still very much on my sell list. So
is he?
If he blanks against West Brom, I don't think I can keep him.
I hate it when people say he's dependent on last week's scorer for the transfer. I hate that so much. He's got a great run coming up. If he's in the team and playing number 10, Chelsea got great fixtures. Suck it up, man.
Three blanks in a row though, and there's so many other options. Because Pulisic, I could move into Pulisic if he's fit. Or
we've already seen what happens.
It's the price drop, isn't it? You're doing it again. It's the price drop.
Well, I've already taken the price drop now. I feel a bit less. I feel a little bit less better. I don't know. I could move my team. The trouble is next week my team is looking weaker. My defense is looking weak. So I could move Havertz out, get in Foden, and then beef my defense up a bit. So I don't really know. I'm happy this week. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, let's move on to my team. Done my transfers also. So Podence has come into midfield to replace Sam Maximan, who I think everyone feels like they've been.
Don't know how you fell for that one. Mark.
Yeah, I know. I'm not the only one. I mean, the thing is, I looked at the data, and the data looked good because I was going Armstrong, but then
rubbish. Off post restart, he was one of the worst under 7 million midfielders for expected goals. He was like right in the bottom.
But I look at the other data as well, and he had
other data.
Well, I'm not just expected. The special data that I only get. I think the Premier League. Can I have that other? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but it's not just about expected goals. I mean, like touches in the box, shots in the box, stuff like that. And I was comparing him to Armstrong because he was the 5.5 that I was going for, and then Armstrong got injured anyway. It made it easy. So I think that injury just convinced me. Oh, I'm going Sam Maxman. I can't think about it anymore. I'd reached the threshold of thinking about my team. And we all fell for it. Well, not all of us, but a lot of good managers fell for it. So part of I know Podence is a risk, and he may not be in the team regularly in 2 or 3 weeks, but he's going to give me a couple of weeks. And he looks very, very good player, and good fixtures. And so I might, Grealish and Podence might be players that I swap around. So what I've done, I've got that defence set up. I don't have to change. I mean, James seems to be settled now. So with Dean, James, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold in defence, I can leave that alone and I can play 4 at the back or 3 at the back, bring Souček in when I need him to change the formation up and swap Grealish and Podence around. Adams is the problem. If Adams doesn't start soon, he's going to have to go. I've taken one drop, but that's because I'm thinking I can go Adams to Antonio with a 0.5 I've got in my bank eventually. I don't want to do that yet because Antonio's fixtures are still bad, and Adams has got West Brom game week 4. So he needs that goal at Burnley. If he gets that goal at Burnley, it's happy days for me. I feel like I'm in a good spot then. But if he doesn't,
just like me and Havertz, you're mocking me, but it's all about the next game. See,
I'm optimistic though. I mean, just off the back of a terrible game week, I still look at that team and think I'm really happy.
It looks good to me.
Yeah.
Good.
I know, it looks good.
When Adams doesn't score and Shane Long comes in against West Brom, how upsetting is it? No, it looks good.
Isn't it, Mike? Like, look, our teams, 4 players the same, the rest different, so 7 differences. It's nice to have that many.
It is. For the sake of the show, it is good, isn't it? Otherwise, it would be very, very dull if you had the same teams. Let's look at your wildcard team then, Luke, because I like this. I mean, look at the front line. Look at that.
Look at him stroking my ego, waiting for me to fail again. I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. Basically, my consideration is, do I do Martial to Werner? Because I might captain him, as it looks like a pretty obvious move. The thing is, I could see that could easily just backfire because Martial's got a good game. So it's one of these vanity moves that could easily turn around and bite me. So I'm not sure yet because I could just captain Kevin De Bruyne. So that's kind of my decision as to what I do with that. To be honest, I really wanted Trossard and I was so close to getting him instead of Klitsch. And I just thought it's because of my love for the man that has made me sort of be clouded. But is he not a good option this year?
Yeah, I looked
Trossard
at him.
Is great.
If I didn't go Podence, I nearly went the extra up to 6 to get Trossard.
The biggest issue with him was the fact that would he definitely start because he was sort of in and out of the team quite a lot last year.
So I just know I'll get the timing.
But it's interesting because we played 2 different formations and kind of move the team around like Potter likes to do, and he's stayed on, so he can play up front, with Mopé like he did in the first game, or in the second game Connolly came in and he played in a different position. So that, he's now adapting to the flexibility. So I think he's going to play. He looks really sharp. I think he's a good pick.
He's got some set pieces, likes a shot. He's 6 million. He's definitely on my watch list. Yeah. He's one of those.
I'd still rather have Mopé though.
Yeah, I suppose penalties come into it again, don't they, with that scenario. So yeah, I mean that's part of my thinking is I prefer Trossard, but at the end of the day, Klitsch could get a load of penalties, and again that's a silly move. So I mean, if I was to redo this again, I'd definitely have Anguissa as my 4.5 midfielder. I thought he was phenomenal in the Fulham game. I know it's Fulham and he won't do that every week and get assists and stuff, but he just looked a very, very good player. So
what about Burke of Sheffield United?
Yeah, I know a lot about him, and, but he's going to get rotated, isn't it?
Of course,
that's the problem. Yeah, so I mean, Trossard, Anguissa, sort of names that I probably may have gone Martinez instead of Leno. I was very close to doing that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it moving forward. And that's part of the reason why I did it is it's for a number of weeks, really. So for right now, I'm kind of set. I'm hoping to save a few transfers. The only thing is the Werner thing. Will I do it or not? I don't know yet.
So you've got a transfer to use yet, have you, this week?
No, so I brought De Bruyne in because I had to keep Aubameyang for captain. Should have just had De Bruyne. He's outscored Aubameyang, but again, not going
If
to
you
know
do
that.
Martial to Werner for a hit.
Yeah, because he was going to go down in price, remember? So apparently, but he still hasn't gone down. So I couldn't pick a wildcard team with Werner in and see him go down.
That was it.
On the phone again. He's not gone down.
Move.
So I was waiting for him to go to 9.4 and then just buy him because I thought it would be worth it for the one game punt on Martial at home to Palace. Cheers, Martial.
I really like that team, Luke.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah.
It makes me want to walk.
We're all optimistic. I reckon people tuned in expecting us to be down in the mouth, really depressed about it. But it's look at the red arrows on the screen there next to our names and those ridiculous ranks that I could barely fit in on the screen. I think we're going to get green arrows now. I think we're going to start going up.
Oh, why you
come on? We've got to be positive, right? It was an outlier. Game week 2 was a massive outlier. The swing, there was like no middle ground. You either did outstandingly well or very, very badly, and we fell into that latter group. But I do think looking at our teams, we're going to be all right. I think we'll be fine. Come on,
support group.
Work with me.
Group.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all here for each other.
Yeah, we've got to be positive, and then luck is part of this game, and we didn't get that variance, but I think that the decisions were sound enough in all cases. I look at the only thing I would have done different is obviously Grealish to Barnes. I wouldn't have got Grealish, I'd have got Barnes, but I had logic there, and the Fulham game is one of the fixtures I was looking at of it, so it's not over yet. So he could still, if he gets 10, 13 points in that game and Barnes gets a blank at City, I'll be up on it. So let's see what happens. Let's talk about captains. This is the captain planner that we've been using. Game week 3, we've got 3 players highlighted here as players that we were going to consider going into this game week, and they're still relevant. Salah at home to Arsenal, Werner away at West Brom, and Kevin at home to Leicester. So I'll go last, I think. Where are you going? You going De Bruyne, Luke, or are you going Salah, or?
It's on De Bruyne right now, but I really don't know if I can go without Werner against West Brom, having seen them play 2 games, which is, you'd say it's too small amount of data, right? But everything suggests that they might get spanked. The only thing I'll add on that is in one of your other screenshots you had, Mark, is from open play. Chelsea's expected goals was actually really bad, really low.
But one of those games they've had 10 men, right? So
they haven't looked good though in either game.
No. What, Chelsea? Oh,
yeah, Chelsea.
10
okay.
Men. And they played Liverpool, obviously, as part of it. So, yeah, I don't know. Part of me just says go De Bruyne. He's the best player in the league. He's going to get penalties, like I've already discussed. They've looked fantastic. Why take a hit for Werner when he could easily fail? Yeah,
well, let's bring up some other stats here, because this is the major points haul so far in the season. And I've highlighted the promoted teams there. Obviously, they've conceded a lot of goals, so you'd expect to see them in here. But I'm just going to keep a record of this as we go throughout the season, because this is based off the chat I had with Sever, who we mention every show. And don't worry, I'm going to tell you who he's going to captain in a minute.
I was going to say.
Sever, Luke, if you didn't know, was the guy who had the best captain score in the whole game last season. And he very much said it's all about fixture. He doesn't care about form. He goes purely on the fixture. He identifies the teams.
Love that.
Yeah. And looking at this, you got to think, well, though Fulham, Leeds, West Brom are prominent in this so far. Right? They've figured heavily in the big hauls so far. And I'm just going to track this as we go to see if that continues. And again, that's got to play on our mind when we're weighing up De Bruyne, Salah or Werner. I mean, where are you at the moment?
I'm on De Bruyne just because I watched that Wolves game and I'm thinking City are looking so strong. I mean, Werner could go over to the left and Havertz through the middle. That'd be nice. I don't know. I mean, Werner's got off to a decent start. He's looked good. He's looked quick. He's won 2 penalties already, and I do like this strategy of doing that. But I just think at the moment, with City looking like they were, I just fancy that. So I'm going against that because I'm going form over fixture really. But I think with Ndidi out, that's really made my mind up now to stick with De Bruyne.
Yeah, I mean, if Evans is out as well, because he's an injury doubt, that is going to be a problem. But I mean, I want to show you some more data. I've still got some more up my sleeve. So this is defensive data, and I'm looking at expected goal conceded. What I've done, I've looked back at Newcastle's away matches going back to lockdown and this season, Brighton's home matches because they're at home to Man United, Newcastle away to Spurs, of course, but I think we're discounting Son and Kane at the moment. And then Leicester is interesting. Leicester's 5 away games in lockdown and their 1 away game so far this season. Per match, their expected goals conceded is 1.3, so that's definitely better than Brighton's and Newcastle's. So 1.3, but it is City. You expect City to score more than one goal, don't we? So
that's it. When I'm looking at stats, you kind of almost discredit the defensive stats against Liverpool and City just because of how much better they are than all the other teams in the league. So I mean, I'm pretty comfortable that City are going to score at least 3 goals against.
You reckon 3 goals?
Yeah, at least.
See, I suppose the other thing for this is there's just 5 games, isn't it, for some of them, and 6 for the others. It's still just such a small amount, and obviously the number's always going to be close as a result. 1 point, it's only ever going to be sort of between 1 and 2 in that ratio there, isn't it? So, yeah, I think
James Justin might be coming into centre back. James Justin at centre back. That's not good.
That's the talk, is it?
Well, if Evans is a doubt and Diddy's out.
Yeah. Things we've seen this with City so often that suddenly Pep will change things, or they'll just do something unexpected and just not play as well as they should. So that's always in the back of your mind. They're not this. Man City do this all the time. They look absolutely fantastic, and then they just have a handful of strange games and strange results where things just, stuff that Liverpool don't really do, basically. And you just worry about that with City sometimes.
Leicester don't have a particularly good record against top sides, do they? I remember them last season when they were on a really good run. I think they lost to Liverpool and City when they were playing kind of at their best.
Are you not guys not captaining Salah then? That's what I want to ask you.
Well, no one's
12 million. Why are you not captaining him?
No, because of Arteta, I guess. I guess we think that Arteta's going to set up I mean, we have seen the improvement, and like I said earlier, they have actually beaten Liverpool in the last under Arteta. Liverpool haven't beaten them yet.
Okay, so if you take out the opponent, I mean, it's Salah at home with penalties, everything, you'd be captaining him 100%, yeah? So it's just the opponent.
It's just the opponent. Well, because, I mean, I'm learning from the best. I'm learning from Sever, who says, and I mean, in the first show, we looked at my captains, and I think I'd captained a player against the top 6 5 times, and he'd done it once. And I think I captained against the bottom 6 15 times, and he did it 22 times. And so I looked at that and thought, well, clearly I'm swayed by the player form rather than fixture. So this season, I'm trying to learn from that and go, right, I'm going with fixture alone. And I look at it and think Salah against Arsenal, De Bruyne against Leicester, they're potentially 2 top 6 teams, all right, there or thereabouts. So I'm not going to go there. I'm going Werner. And I obviously messaged Sever and said, okay, this is a running theme now. If I don't ask you and if I don't reveal it, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack on the show. So I said, Sever, he brought in KDB this week. Don't think I'm giving too much away by saying that. You can tell from his team. So I said, you going KDB for captain? And I'd already said to him, I'm going Werner, by the way. And he said, yeah, I'm going Werner too, fixture. So he's going Werner. So
okay, so that's my mind made up.
But no, we don't have to do as Sever does.
We do if he's the number one scorer.
We do if we want some points.
Well, yeah. He blanked.
Who do I trust, me or someone who's good?
Should I go for Havertz? Would you go for Havertz then?
Well, this is why I said it. How long before you are looking at Havertz? But yeah, Sever blanked with his captain 7 times last season.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
See, part of me wants to say it can't keep coming back all the time.
No,
it's going to go like red eventually.
No, exactly. But I do think Werner. I mean, he's going to get his first goal, I think, at West Brom. I think that's going to happen. Whether he'll outscore De Bruyne. De Bruyne looks such a monster. I don't want to bet against him, but I want to stick to this principle because I said at the start of the season that's what I'm going to take. There's 2 major things. Transfers, I'm going to transfer out players first and foremost who aren't performing for me. Sounds obvious, but often I don't do that. Often I just go, well, I want that player, so I'll get that player out.
And with Aubameyang this week.
Yeah, but his fixtures mean he's not going to. And also, off the back of that, he didn't perform well, did he? Let's face it.
And I did the same as well. I agree. But sometimes you've got to just do it. Yeah, it's someone like De Bruyne.
I think it's yeah. All right, fair enough. Good point. But the other thing was captain. I'm always going to go with fixture and see where it gets me. So I'm going Werner. He's going Werner. I'm the only one of the 3 of us doing that. But
might have swayed Luke now.
Maybe not.
4-point hit.
At the end of the day, are Chelsea going to score 2 or 3 goals against West Brom? Everything suggests at the moment that probably, right?
I think they will. Yeah.
And who looks the biggest threat for Chelsea so far? It's Werner by a mile for me. No one else has offered anything. Obviously today Havertz has done well, but
Well,
so far in the
that's
Premier
made
League.
it. That's cemented it for me because before tonight, I was thinking Werner, I do fancy him, but where's the creativity? There's no confidence in that team at the moment.
Mason Mount on left wing just doesn't work for me.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's going to change soon. Pulisic is going to come in, and it's all going to be fine and dandy. But I think they'll have more than enough for West Brom. I really do. I just don't. I don't see them coping with Werner's pace and bursts the pace and runs across the line. From what I've seen of West Brom's defence, yeah, I'm going to go for it and see where it gets me. Let's stick to the principle. That's my thing.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Well, we're coming in at 1 hour 40 again. I thought we'd break all records. I thought we'd go to 2 hours with Luke on the show. You know, as you had
there's one topic we haven't covered though.
Go on then. Go for it.
Gareth Bale.
Oh yeah. Do you want to talk about that at the end then? Because you love him, don't you? So
I love him. Yeah,
right, can you do 25 minutes on Gareth Bale?
Well, let's just do a quick one. I mean, do you think 9.5 is a good price for him, and would you consider him if he was fit, Mark?
It's like Rodriguez. I don't trust the fitness because it's the same with him. I've yet to see him come under the rigours of Premier League football, and I don't know if Bale will stand up to that. I love him as a player. I've got memories of him like everybody else. Saw him incredible goals. He's playing under Mourinho, though, so we've got to factor that in. We don't know where he's going to play. We don't know what role he's going to have in that team. We don't know how the chemistry between him, Son and Kane, which is going to be vital, is going to work. So we're going to need time. The trouble is you need to see him. You said it in the Scoutcast. You need to see him chain in matches before he starts winning you over. But he's another option. Like you said, we've got so many options this season. I totally agree with you, and it's a better game for it. And throwing him into the mix, and we've got the transfer window to come. Who knows who's coming in? You got Stevens going to Brighton. What more could we want? You know, it's brilliant. Going to Burnley rather. But yeah, I mean, we need to give him time. But my heart says I want him to work out and be an asset to us. My head says we've got to show caution. What about you, Luke?
It's just a flat no for me.
Oh,
because
straight in.
I mean, he was injury prone back in the day, and it's just gone on and on. I mean, he's just highly injury prone. And for me, I mean, what was Jose saying the other day? Oh, press. My team doesn't press. He's going to have Kane and Bale in the same team, but up front, how's he going to get any pressing? His son's going to be absolutely knackered. Yeah. who's going to be doing the pressing in his team?
Look, Bale's an athlete, isn't he? Last time I saw him, he was still a decent athlete.
100%. But I think it's more in bursts these days. That's the problem. We just don't know. You don't see him play enough to understand it. I mean, there's people who are going to know a lot more than me. I haven't seen him play that much very recently, but
I think
I just don't understand where he's going to get that pressing front three from if he's got Bale, Kane and Son from me at the moment. I almost think he might even go for a two up front and treat it like a Ronaldo kind of floating off of Kane or something like that. But it's all guesswork at the moment, and I guess that's part of it. It's a lot of money to play for a guess, whereas with James Rodriguez, it's 7.5 million. They had the fixtures, everything's there. You can kind of see that one. But I mean, ultimately, Bale, I mean, he went for, what was it, 100 million nearly, or was it 100 million he went back years ago now?
Something like that. Yeah.
So there's obviously a very good player in there, isn't there? We just have to wait and see whether it's actually there, I think, on that one.
He's going to monopolise those the free kicks though, which is good. He's going to be on all the free. You know, when you see Bale so much a free kick outside the penalty area, you're going to be thinking, "Oh, this is pretty tasty." He's 0.5 more than Son, which I think is the slight concern because Son
clever pricing.
Does it? It is a good. I thought he was going to come in at 10, so I was quite happy to see him at 9.5. If he chains a few games together though, and the fixtures are good, I'm going to find it impossible to resist him. I think.
Oh, really? You're going in?
I would go for it. I'd have to. I mean, he's not going to have lost his ability and his class. The only question marks are over his fitness.
It's a romantic transfer, that I would say. I think you've got a bit of a man crush.
Bruno Fernandez to Bale on the cards then,
he is one of my favourite all-time players to watch. Do you remember what he did for fantasy teams? Back in the day, like he was just relentless.
To be honest, I can't really remember. I have to go back and read my own articles on Scout to remember.
Yeah, that's it. They were black and white.
I know. I saw. Yeah. But yeah, I hope it works out for him, and I hope he's going to add to the mix because it's already a good season in terms of the options, and having Bale in there is exciting, isn't it?
A lot of people were like, well, I hope it works out. He's on like 400 grand a week.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is, like,
bless him. I really hope he can get by.
Well, we like to be like, we've done 10 minutes on Bale and we haven't mentioned golf once either. Look, how many punters do that? It's crazy. Yeah. Well, I don't know. We'll see how he goes. When's he going to debut as well? It's going to be what, a month? 6
Yeah,
weeks.
they're saying they might be able to get him fit for after the international break, so he could see some minutes game week 5.
Mourinho again. It's all about your motivation. Doesn't matter if you're injured, as long as you've got the motivation, you can play even with a broken leg. He'll be in the team as soon as he can. As soon as I think he'll be in quicker than you think.
Really?
I think he will. I mean, he loves it. Jose hates injured players, and he's signing Bale. It's just a recipe for disaster. This, I think. You've got to remember, he was under Harry Redknapp most of the time before when Bale was playing. I think in a free, just gung-ho team going forwards.
It's a very unlike Mourinho and Levy signing. I was surprised that it's happened, but
they needed something though. They needed something to that scale to get the fans back, and
a centre midfielder, a centre back, that would have helped.
Yeah, I mean they all paid for their Amazon subscriptions. Then they get that Everton game. I mean they must have been really upset. So
Moura works hard, but he hasn't got anywhere near the.
You hate him, don't you? You absolutely hate Moura. That's another one. Chris Wood, Lucas Moura.
Well, Lucas Moura has given me what I think is one of the greatest moments in football, which was that hat-trick against Ajax. That last-minute goal against Ajax is one of the best footballing moments I've ever seen, because I just there was it was better than the Liverpool one. Their comeback, maybe not as good as their Champions League final comeback in Istanbul, but against Barcelona. I mean that Moura hat-trick was incredible. But every other game I've watched Moura play in, bang average.
Okay, we could be here all night. You slagging off average. Lucas Moura. We can't do that. Az, I think you got a message to the people watching. A certain message we forgot to say last week.
Forgot to do it.
I don't want you to say it, but you can say it in an ironic way. Go ahead.
Thank you everyone for watching the FPL BlackBox. Now smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. No, but actually, it does help us.
It does. We
do actually need you to like and subscribe.
It cheers us up at the weekend when we get 35 points with a -4 plus here as well.
If you haven't smashed already, then please smash.
Do it. No. Thanks so much, Luke, for popping on.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure to have you, wasn't it? It was a good performance. I think definitely more Rodriguez than Havertz.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go off injured now then and see you again next time.
Okay, it's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.